So suppose somebody is just not interested in the spiritual aspect of the yoga, but interested only, wants to do practice, wants to do practices of yoga and all the techniques and methods, and wants to improve his health. So is it possible that just by doing the yoga techniques, the postures and asanas, he can still be healthy and happy, peaceful?
To some extent, he will be healthy, but whether he'll be happy and peaceful, that cannot be so sure. But even when it comes to physical health, doing only the techniques without going into the spiritual aspects will not be as effective. Because if the person performs all those techniques out of fear of disease and death, just to live a little longer, to be free of disease and so on, then sometimes he starts feeling that it is a burden to be carried, and that becomes strenuous. I suppose we're talking about, in fact, yoga includes not just these exercises, or let's take only these exercises. Now, for these, the person has to get up early in the morning. The person is accustomed to getting up late. Now, if he has to get up early in the morning so that he can find time to do these postures before going for work, the person starts feeling, oh, what a problem. Just for living a little longer to get rid of this disease, now I have to get up early, and he doesn't feel like getting out of bed. Now, the stress that he experiences because of not being able to stay longer in bed might neutralize the benefit that he gets from these postures. Which means that if a person does these things because he has to, then the effect is not as good as if he does these practices if he wants to. Now, when he thinks of the spiritual aspects, he wants to do these things. Why? Because now these practices have become a part of a broader philosophy for him. We cannot really give up anything unless we can get something still better in exchange. That's a basic principle. Now, when the person understands the philosophy of yoga, then his goal has been set at a higher level. His goal is beyond living a physically comfortable life, and therefore he feels that to be able to get there, my basic instrument, that is the body and the mind, should be in a good shape, and therefore for him, keeping the body and the mind in a good shape is something which is not a goal in itself. It becomes a means to a higher end, and because he has that higher goal in mind, many of the smaller things which were very important to him earlier cease to be so important, which means that whether the food tastes so good or not doesn't matter to him. Whether if he has to get up early in the morning, he does not mind it, and therefore now he wants to do these things. He doesn't have to do them only out of fear of disease and death. Otherwise, what happens is, suppose the person is eating fruits and vegetables to be able to live longer. But then while he's eating these fruits and vegetables, he is missing omelets and cutlets. And the result is that the good that the fruits and vegetables do to him can be more than neutralized by the stress caused by the missing of the omelets and cutlets. Now, this is something which looks like an exaggeration because we have a tendency to give much greater importance to physical factors like exercise, diet, smoking, drinking, etc. But we don't feel that the mind is that important in affecting physical health. To bring out that, there's a beautiful study which was once done on rabbits. Now, these rabbits were divided into two groups, as is done in most of the studies. One group, the control group, was given the usual rabbit diet. The experimental group of rabbits was given a high-fat, high-cholesterol diet, which, as we all know, increases the risk for heart disease, and the basic lesion in the arteries is atherosclerosis, that is deposition of fatty substances in the arteries. Now, when the rabbits were fed this type of a diet for a few weeks, and then the results were analyzed, it was found that while as expected, the control group, which got the usual rabbit diet, which is basically grass and such vegetable material, vegetable stuff, this group did not get atherosclerosis. But in the other group, which got the high-fat, high-cholesterol diet, again there were sort of two subgroups. some got the disease and some did not. I'm putting it in black and white. Research results are never so clear cut, but there were sort of two subgroups, one which showed the atherosclerosis to a much greater extent, to a clearly greater extent than the other subgroup. Then, when they went into the details, they found that the difference was in the position of the cage in the animal house. In the animal house, the rabbits were placed on shelves, and those which were on the lower shelves, they escaped the disease in spite of the high fat, high cholesterol diet. Those which were high up, they were the ones who got the disease. Now, what could the position of the cage have to do with getting or not getting the disease? They further then went into the detail and found that the technician who came to feed the rabbits, when she went to the rabbits on the lower shelves, she took the rabbit out, held it in her lap, cuddled it, fondled it, placed it back in the cage, and then gave it the food. When it came to the top cages, she could barely reach there, so she just opened the cage, threw the food in, and shut the cage. So the rabbits which got a daily dose of love and affection, besides the high fat, high cholesterol diet, could overcome the effects of this unhealthy diet. So psychological factors can be that important. They can overcome the effects of the mistakes that we make in the physical factors. And when it comes to the mistakes that we make when it comes to the physical factors, who does not? Who is perfect there? For a variety of reasons. Firstly, our own ignorance. We don't always know what is a perfect diet and how much exercise to take, which one to take, and what is the best way to do it, how much to sleep, and so on and so forth. And even when we know, even what we know, we are not able to put into practice very often because of so many obligations and compulsions in worldly life. So hardly anybody is perfect when it comes to physical factors. So therefore, the mental factors become even more important, and one can understand that while one should try to take care of physical factors as much as one should, one need not get tense because of making a small mistake, because we couldn't help it, because this stress that we'll get because of having made that mistake can be more harmful than the mistake that we made. And also, if we are able to be at peace, mentally at peace, we'll be able to override some of the mistakes that we are making when it comes to the physical factors. Now, how does yoga, the spiritual aspect of yoga, help us in being at peace? It helps us by being at peace because, firstly, it guides us to the type of choices that give us joy and lasting mental peace. Secondly, it leads to the transformation of the emotional part of the being and the intellect. And the result is that it leads to a harmony between different parts of the being. And a lot of stress is because of the disharmony. The mind pulls us in one direction, and the intellect in another, and the soul in a third direction. It is this disharmony that takes our peace away. Another thing that yoga does is to take away the stress which is associated with work. Because when we work, taking ourselves as the doers of the work, we are very proud of it. We feel that I'm the only one who can do this job so well. And then we also expect reward and recognition for it. When you do it from the yogic standpoint, you do that work as an instrument of the divine. We understand that the abilities which enable me to do the work and the circumstances which make that work possible have also been given to me by the divine, and therefore I am only an instrument. So when you work as an instrument of the divine, that egoistic feeling of me doing the work, me doing it so well, and therefore expecting that I should be rewarded, all that goes. So the stress related to work disappears with this attitude. Then the third thing that happens is that the unexpected events and circumstances of life, the ups and downs of life. Just because one lives a spiritual life does not make a person immune to these vicissitudes of life. The person does not become immune to a road accident or an incurable disease or marital disharmony or or having a delinquent child. Does not make the person immune to any of these things. But what the person becomes immune to is the emotional effects of these traumatic events in life. Because the person not only can see it from a broader perspective, but the person in fact can see that all these are part of a package deal. Life has been given to us as a package deal which has something pleasant and something unpleasant. Both types of experiences are there, and both are for a purpose, because they both are in fact opportunities for spiritual growth, which is the very purpose of life. While one can grow both through good fortune and misfortune, the sad fact is that people generally grow more through misfortune than through good fortune. And therefore, the person now starts accepting misfortune also with gratitude as something that has been given to him so that he can fulfill the purpose of his life. So, yoga gives us a dispassionate view of looking at the ups and downs of life, and all these three things put together, reducing the disharmony between the emotional part of the being, the intellect, and the soul, changing our attitude to our daily work, and changing our attitude to the ups and downs of life. These things that make the person happy and peaceful. Just physical practices or sitting for 20 minutes in meditation will not do it. Because there's a common misunderstanding that if we meditate every day, then we'll be at peace. That is asking for too much from too little. Just sitting quietly for 20 minutes, leaving the rest of the life totally unchanged, will not accomplish much. It may make us feel a little better during the meditation or a little few minutes after that, but it cannot compensate for the tension and turmoil of 24 hours. What will do it is changing our attitude to the events and circumstances of life. Meditation can facilitate bringing that attitude into daily life. One can reflect over our attitude, how we faced our life that particular day, or how we are facing our life challenges and problems in general during the period of meditation. But meditation by itself will not do it.